for that. So every day I did the same thing. And as you get more experience, I still keep the bell, but the goals get bigger and bigger as you start to grow and your knowledge starts to grow. But always have goals for yourself. Always do, and this is one of the things I tell people, and I find it hard. It sounds simple, but people don't do this. Do all the stuff that's revenue affecting first thing in the morning. So I could have a list of 10 things to do, but it's just for me, I want this site done, I need this pretty, whatever. Doesn't matter. Do the revenue affecting stuff first. So that includes stuff that where you've got to send an invoice to a customer. It includes customer service stuff as well, because that affects your revenue. If your customer's unhappy, that's no good either. So you have to make sure that you do all the revenue affecting stuff. Anything that can cost you money or make you money, make sure you do that first, and that will free up the day. And if you don't get to those 10 things that you had for today, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that you get to the ones that are important. And some days, some of the stuff that I want to do for me or one of my companies, it may take a few days, but I'll get to it. But at least nobody's suffering while I'm waiting to do it. So make sure you get that revenue affecting stuff first. And then the other thing is, the best thing you can do is, a lot of people give me portfolios to review. I do them all the time on Domain Sherpa. I actually recorded one 2 nights ago here in the hotel lobby, which was kind of fun. But I'll tell you, at least 90% of the portfolios that I see are horrible. And the best thing I can do for somebody, instead of saying, yeah, that's a good domain, let's build it out to get money for development, the best thing I can do with somebody is be honest with them. If I'm honest with them, and I always tell them, if you want me to review your portfolio, it's not going to be pretty, but I'm going to tell you the truth, because I'd rather set you on the right path now, before you continue to waste thousands and thousands of dollars going forward and staying on the wrong path, and then only to find out a year or 2 later that you should have got on the right path. So, and I tell people, when it comes to domaining, I can teach you anything as long as you have drive, passion, and common sense. Okay, I can't teach common sense. If you don't have common sense, you're in a bit of trouble. One of the harder things to teach a little bit is sales. But if you're outgoing and you read a couple of books, and believe me, I hate reading books. Right through high school, I never bothered reading a book because they're always boring. But if you read the right books and you learn from the right people, you can build your sales knowledge. If you have an outgoing personality, you'll automatically do a lot better in this industry. When you're talking about sales, a lot of people just send out, so I sell a lot of domains a week. And everyone says, well, how do you do it? Well, I do it on outbound. And I've got a lot of strategies that I use that work really well. And one of the things that I'll do is I'll send out an email, maybe, but I don't spam out like 100 or 200 or 500 hoping to sell a domain name. I'll pick the 10 best candidates for the domain name. And then based on those 10 best candidates, I'll send out the emails. I'll follow up and see which people actually opened the email. So, for example, Jeff got my email. He actually opened it up. Dietmar didn't because he wasn't interested, but Jeff did, and he passed it to his partner, Colin. Now I know Jeff was interested. It was good enough for him to pass to Colin, so now I know I can follow up with a phone call, and at least he'll have a rough idea what I'm talking about. So an email is not good enough. You do a lot more, same as coming to a conference. It's not good enough just to sit online and watch the conference online. It's much better if I'm here in person, we can relate to each other, whether we know each other or not, we talk to each other, we learn about each other. It's the same thing. So you basically do that. You talk to the people, you get the right people on the phone. I sold quite a few high-end domain names, and I'll tell you about that in a second and how I sold some of those. I've sold lots of domains over $1 million, and I sold one over $15 million. And how I did it was I got to the right people. Sometimes you have to use a few tricks. So to sell paperbacks, I sold it to Barnes & Noble, big book company in the US. I don't know if they're here or not, but huge company. But what I did was I looked up LinkedIn and I saw the gentleman's name who was the accountant for Barnes & Noble. Now I know he's not the right guy to talk to about buying a domain name. So what I did was I called him up and I said, and Jeff is the president. So I said, hi, Alan, I'm interested in talking to you about selling a domain name, and he's all of a sudden puzzled and goes, well, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I said, should I be talking to Jeff instead? And he says, yeah, Jeff's a better guy to talk to. So then I called Jeff's office, who's the CEO, and I said, hey, Jeff, Alan told me I should give you a call because I'm interested. He thought you'd be interested in this domain name. Well, right away I got in the door because it was his vice president of accounting that sent me. He figured I must have some credibility, and I had a name to go both ways, and eventually I sold the name to them for 7 figures. So You just have to use a little ingenuity, use your LinkedIn, use whatever techniques you have, and you'll find yourself farther ahead as you go. But you've got to be always thinking on your feet and realize that you're not going to close many big deals. You may close a few for a few thousand here and there without actually getting on the phone and talking to people, but even those. I'll tell you a story about another one in a minute, but these are the ways that you get to people, and these are the ways that you sell domain names. And going back to the new GTLDs, it's the same thing with that. You have to think of it, would a business be interested? For example, Jeff recently sold coffee.club. Okay? It's a great domain name because you think, well, coffee club, lots of people drink coffee, it makes sense. And it's run by a gentleman named Bill McClure, who's turning it into a huge business. He's always been in the coffee business. And marrying up him with Jeff was a great deal for both companies. And it's already started to turn into a big business. But if you can't think of why you're buying a domain name, or why a business would be interested in buying that domain name, don't bother. So take a look at your portfolios, and one of the things I guess I'll talk about either today or tomorrow is how to trim down and how to evaluate your portfolio. And every domain name should pass some criteria. And if it doesn't, then there's no reason for you to hold on to it. I put that in like a drop pile, which means don't drop it yet. Wait till it expires. But if you get any offer on it before that, dump it and move it on. There's other domains that are good for directories, good for informational sites. There's lots of different uses for domain names that can grow big businesses and lots of revenue. So there's lots of different things you can do as far as that goes. So the main thing is to understand that you have to think like a business, because if you're trying to sell to businesses, you need to be targeting businesses. We just built up technology.com. Great domain name, it's only been up like a week, and the traffic's starting to go like this. So if you give people what they want and what they expect when they go to a site, then you're also going to be able to build more traffic and things like that. So, what else? Okay, so something that, we're talking about GTLD. So yes, there are some that are really good, just like comms. There's some that are really good and some that aren't really good. I happen to think, not because Jeff's here, but .club is one of the better GTLDs, but there's a lot of other ones. If you can think of why it would be good for a business, you can understand, well, why people are buying it. Like .rich, it's not a really popular GTLD. It's expensive, but the only thing I can do maybe is how to get .rich. I mean, if I put Adam Dicker .rich, then I just sound like an idiot. I sound like a cocky guy who just thinks he's something he's not. So it has to sound like a real business. It has to sound like, I mean, there's so many other ones. I have, I'll tell you which story should I tell you first? I'll tell you the story about how else you can sell domains and variations of domains. So I had a domain name called pinksliploans.com. So I looked up who owned pinksliploan.com. It was a company in California. And they were obviously selling loan. Pinkslip, I don't hear what it means, but in Canada it means, Canada US means you're fired, so you need a loan. It's a pinkslip is a termination notice. So anyway, that company's called Pinkslip Loan. So I got a call from somebody who said they wanted to buy Pinkslip loans from me because their competitor owns Pinkslip Loan, the singular. So I said, okay, and I quoted him like $7,800. Okay, and he said, okay, I want it. And I said, well, okay, you got till Monday. Always put time limits on these things, or say it's good for 7 days or whatever. Otherwise, they're never going to get back to you. So he didn't get back to me till it was Monday already, with the deadline. I said, well, he's not getting back to me. What strategy can I use? Now remember, the price was $7,800. So what I did was he gave me too much information, and I called the guy that owned Pinkslip Loan. And I said, you know, one of your competitors is calling me, trying to buy this name because he wants to compete with you and take some of your traffic. He said, oh, really? I said, yeah. I said, but I don't work like that. I said, I don't really want to sell it to him. I'd rather sell it to you since you own the name. I said, so I'll give it to you for the same price as I was going to give it to him, $12,500. And he took it. That was it. End of the story. So